All right. I'm Gary Byrne, co-host of Mission Redefined. I'm here with Chris Nowak. Chris, say hello to everybody.
How's everybody doing today?
We're very excited. Chris and myself and our producer, Grant Schmidt, is here running the electronics for us. We haven't gotten electrocuted yet, so
we're ahead of the game.
Yeah, we're doing good. So today we're over in Morton, Pennsylvania. We're interviewing our good friend, Tom Devietro. And Tom runs a gym here. Tom Devietro Strength Training Gym. It's at 32 Morton Avenue. Is that right, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Say hello to everybody, Tom.
How you doing, everybody?
So I was about 5 years ago. I was flying as an air marshal. I was exhausted from jet lag and fatigue, and my air marshal office had this great gym, but I was so tired of being at work.
Right.
And I was broken. I was overweight. I was miserable. I couldn't sleep. So a lot of the young guys were doing CrossFit at the time, and Tom was running a CrossFit gym that he had started. And I found them on the internet, and I walked in there, and I'm telling you, the guy kind of saved my life, sort of. I mean, because they gave me a different way to work out. And I was 50 years old at the time. Now I'm 55, getting ready to be 56. And it really kind of saved me. And Tom's a former Army veteran, a Ranger. Tom, tell us a little bit about your service.
Okay, so I joined the Army right out of high school in 2003, right when the War on Terror kicked off. I had 8.5 years active duty service.
Right.
Couple deployments to Iraq, couple deployments to Afghanistan, couple to Honduras, down in the Caribbean. I was a trauma specialist, a medic the first 5 years, and then I switched my job and went airborne, went to infantry the last 4.
Mm-hmm.
And this April, I'm coming up on 6 years being out.
Right.
It's kind of
wow.
It's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
It's getting closer to
Yeah.
the amount of time that I served.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's still a roller coaster. The residuals from my 8.5 years of all the fun and experiences I had and all the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So 8.5 years in, almost 6 out, and happy to be where I'm at.
That's
Cool.
good.
Hey, Tom, you talked about, being 6 years, coming out and 6 years out now. That's kind of what we're focused on here with our podcast here, Mission Redefined. Obviously, while you were in, you had a lot of cool missions, did a lot of high-speed stuff. Obviously, you didn't play basketball for the Army team. I mean, and this is not a basketball gym. So there's a little side joke about Tom's height about that, but you don't measure a man by his height, but measure him by his heart, and that's a good measurement for you.
Yeah.
But getting back to Mission Redefined, tell us just basically, just give me the top 3 things that you picked up during your service that's helped you successful since you've been out.
So, about 6 years ago, when it was 6 months before I was going to get out, I remember calling my best friend, Kevin Murtaugh, and I said, "Yo, dude, I'm really nervous about getting out. All I know is the Army lifestyle. What am I going to do?" And he's like, stick to what you know. So I was like, all right, what am I going to do? What do I want to do with my life? Where do I like to be, and what do I like to do? So I went right back to the gym, because that's usually what I'm complaining about. I'm like, oh, what am I going to, where do I want to be right now? I want to be at the gym. How do I make that my life when I get out? So I knew the basic things had to be done well. I had to be on time. I had to be in the right uniform. I had to treat people with respect, just basic things, because nobody knows me in this civilian life.
Right.
They know me Army life.
Right.
They didn't know me, or service life, I should say. They didn't know me civilian life. So I went back to the basics. Be on time, be in the right uniform, and be really respectful to everybody. I'd say those 3 staple things, if you go back to the basics and you do them barbarically well, you're going to make mistakes. So I think that is, I still try and remind myself of that. Sometimes when I get a little anxious,
Right.
like even now, I'm coming up 6 years, and I'm like, oh, wow, like, what have you done with yourself? You've been patient.
So taking those 3 traits, do you feel like it gave you a heads up on the competition, gave you something that they didn't quite have, when you came to the gym business and doing what you're doing?
Absolutely. I think, being in the military, being in the Army for 8.5 years, just right out of basic training, like they teach you the basic skill sets that you need for life. It's not just for the Army, it's for life. And
Right.
I think people take that for granted as soon as they graduate basic training. But definitely had a head start, because then when I got out, it took a good 6 months to a year, and I was like, wow, like, I inside my head, I thought I wasn't that smart, and I thought I didn't, operate as well as everybody out here. But then when you give it a chance, you're like, wow, I do have an edge on people. I did practice a lot of discipline. I did have to do a lot of things that I didn't do before and overcome them with someone yelling at you.
Yeah.
You're talking, early 2000s a little bit.
Yeah.
But I definitely now looking back, if you're coming out of the service, you have an edge. You may not realize it yet.
Yeah.
But you do have an edge.
Yeah, that's one thing I like to point out to veterans that are listening to us is, if somewhere in your life somebody's told you you're not so smart, don't use that as a guideline, because you're listening to me, Gary Byrne, who took every test there is out there. I had issues with ADD and dyslexia, and I can't tell you how many different people told me that I was going to have issues. And here's the thing, that's their scale. Don't measure yourself by their scale. You know what I mean? Find what works for you. For me, it was law enforcement, security, and a lot of those tools I did learn from the Air Force.
Right.
Because the Air Force, they're not worried about the issues you bring. They want you to open your toolbox, learn what the military wants you to learn, what they're teaching you, and if you can reproduce it like you just described, Tom, you're going to do fine. And then when you come out in the regular society, you might not realize it, but you're probably functioning better than a good portion of regular society.
Yeah.
So
Tom, day one, you're out. Day one, you decide, you're out. You're a civilian. You're gonna get into the fitness industry. Take me down that path.
Yeah.
Okay, so one, I knew I needed an education, right? I needed some tools in my toolbox. So immediately I started researching the GI Bill, how to put in the application. So the day that I stepped out, or the day that I went to school and started, I knew everything was handled. So first, that was the first thing. All right, tackle the VA, the education system, make sure that's all set up.
What base were you at? Excuse me. When you got out?
I was coming out of Fort Benning, Georgia.
Benning, Georgia.
Yeah,
right.
3rd Ranger Battalion.
Yep.
So that was the first thing, was setting up the VA, the education system, making the phone calls, making the emails, doing the application process, calling the school up, the prospective school. So I contacted MPTI. And then honestly from there, it was I made a regiment for myself. I said, okay, I don't know what to do, and I don't want it to get out of hand. You hear stories about people getting out, hitting the bottle, people getting out, hitting substance. I was like, all right, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna shower, work out, eat my breakfast, and I'm gonna treat it just like I'm in. And I think that really did help keep going. Okay. I was occupied constantly. So keeping a regiment right as soon as you get out. Don't take like a month break. And I'm not saying don't relax because you're not in the service.
Right.
But keep moving. Keep engaged with things.
Right.
If you always have something to go, if you always have something going on, then you won't get bored. You won't become your own worst enemy. So keeping regimented right out the gate.
No, I think that's very important. And PT always falls into that. Your PT is something always you can fall back onto. Working out, it gets your head right. It burns off some energy that you might be burning off doing other bad things. Right. There's no secret. Anybody that's ever seen me, I carry a little bit extra weight. But I used to joke with the guys.
Little.
Chris is looking at me. So I'm like 6'2", like 275. I should weigh about 200
You're more of
pounds.
a Tic Tac, closer to 300 than you are 275.
That's exactly right. So when I still work flight as an air marshal, one of the guys I worked with was joking about my size, and I go, how hard I have to work out just to look this bad? And it's true, So it's I guess my point is it's all kind of relative, but I never gave up, and truly. It was a big boost in my life when I finally ran into you at your old gym, CrossFit Advance, and your partner too, Matt, was a good guy for me too, and you really, I think the for me was doing the I've been pushing weights and jogging for years, and I still gained a lot of weight, and I was kind of injured from that, and they taught me how to move a little bit better, a little bit of aerobics, a little bit of almost like yoga, and really stretching, which I hadn't done in a long time. And I will tell you, it's made me a little bit better of an athlete as far as being an adult, and it's going to help me get older. And these are things you learn in the military today.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, the trainers they have in the military are phenomenal.
I forgot that I don't know why I forgot or how I forgot. I forgot that when I became an NCO, they sent me right to Fort Benning, and they sent me to Warrior Leader course. Right. And a part of Warrior, what was it used to be called? IBOLIC? They changed the name up.
Yeah.
So you go to Warrior Leader course, and I forgot that I was in charge of PT, right? So there's hundreds of people at that course, and sometimes I'll come to class and I'll teach class in my gym. I'll be like, oh, there's 40 people here. That's a lot of people. No, it's not, Tom. 600 people on a field.
Right.
Everybody moving, in sequence and in regiment. That's a lot. So when you take that, when you remember what you were exposed to, and you take a step back and you can kind of put it in relativity, this is a cakewalk.
Right.
And I think those are the things that we miss.
Yeah.
Right.
We miss that.
One of the other things I'd like both of you guys to talk about, it doesn't apply to, it applies to me a little bit, but tell me about the budgets you managed in the military. And especially, and even Chris, even you when you were working in the VA.
It goes back to what Tom was talking about in the VA. I've had a very, very great career in the VA. Was an associate director at a medical center, worked in headquarters. We're talking, $100 million budgets and stuff like that.
That revolve around people's lives.
Yeah,
right?
that you have to be accountable for. But it goes back to the basics.
Right.
Showing up on time, which is early,
right,
which we all know that.
Right.
Dress appropriately, and be courteous and be professional.
Yeah.
Those three things, are really, really important and help in any aspect. So Tom, you're in school. You went to school, used the GI Bill. Talk a little bit about that and how you feel about that and how the VA is doing that now.
Okay, so when I went to school, you get paid at the end of the month for your VA benefits. So I will say that, don't expect it right out the gate. You got to be patient with it. Patience is your biggest ally when you first. That was my biggest. I had to calm down. I was like a loaded gun.
Right.
I remember Megan holding my hand if someone sped by me too fast on a streak,
Right.
So it was a patience thing, getting paid at the end of the month. You're wondering, you're like, oh, I just left my job. I need finances to come in. And then, so being patient with the VA finances, that's one thing. You should have a heads up about that. And then two is just understanding that you're coming from a different lifestyle where everyone's expected to be on time, everybody's expected to be in the right uniform, everybody's expected to show customs and courtesies, regardless if they want to, because that's the lifestyle. So when I went to school and I would walk by somebody and look at someone I didn't know and say, hey, good morning, and someone wouldn't even look at me or give me a dirty look, you can't take offense to that. You have to take a tactical pause and say, hey, look, this is different. I have to get used to their lifestyle. They don't have to get used to mine. That's
I hear what you're saying. And I think it's easy for you to say because, you've had those experiences. But what about for somebody who still hasn't flipped that switch, that still doesn't realize that, I don't have to be on time. It's a whole different society out there. We all run into them.
Yeah.
We all run into people
like
we do.
That.
So, is there something that you think that you could say or help our listeners who haven't made that switch yet?
Yeah, definitely. And this may sound odd, especially if you just hear it and you don't see me as I'm saying it, though. As soon as I wake up in the morning, and I go and I brush my teeth, I have a regiment. I brush my teeth and shave my head every day. Mm-hmm. I immediately start thinking about people that I'm going to engage in my day.
Okay.
Right? So first I think of their face and
so
they come
you do
up.
a pre-planning, basically.
I do a visualization, right?
Yeah.
So if you start your day thinking about the people that you don't want to disappoint, your day's not about you.
Right.
Now being on time is for them. Now showing up and doing the right things for them. You said something to me once. It's like if you have to do something and look over your shoulder, probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
But if you start your day and your life about other people, if you don't make it about you, it's easier to do.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Yeah, the more you incorporate other people into your life, it certainly does.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we ended up here.
Yeah.
This is Chris's idea of this podcast.
Yeah.
So
as far as I hope that helps.
Yeah. No.
It does.
It does. So you're in school, you're training at another gym, and you decide what happens. You're at another gym, and now we're in your own gym. Walk me through that evolution.
Your second gym. Actually.
Second gym. Yeah.
So, okay, this is something really interesting, and I think a lot of people getting out of the military, not the Army, but the military in general. I love chain of command system. I like looking at time and grade, and I said, all right, how can I rate myself? I want to open up my own gym, right? How much time should it take? And I said, okay, you're 27 years old. Where would you be in your career? How many people would you be in charge of? Assume that same responsibility. So I treated everything like the rank structure. I was like, okay, I'm a squad leader. This is how many people I should be keeping accountability for with budgets and training and everything. And then I said, okay, when you're 30, I would have had 12 years in service. Where did I expect myself to be? Well, a platoon sergeant at that point. How many people should you be in charge of? Keeping that type of accountability, I kept that going. And right now I looked at it and I'm like, okay, I have over 200 people that I account for on a monthly basis with training, health and welfare, which is the same thing. So I said, all right, I want to be a first sergeant, like in charge of a company.
Right. Yeah.
That's the way I looked at it.
Sure.
And I kept those marks and I was patient. And even if you don't make that promotion or you don't have that many people that you're in charge of, the responsibilities, I think giving yourself that like little marker and like, all right, this is where I want to be. Keep going forward, you know.
Yes. So my thought was, is what you just described to us, Tom, is basically what you're doing. It sounds like you did all of this before you even went in the military, but you set goals for yourself. You set goals, not crazy goals. I'm not going to say in 2 weeks I want to be the Queen of England, but you're setting realistic goals based on the skills that you have. And I know this for a fact because I know you well. You're not just my coach or my friend, and your wife taught my kids, my son for 2 years, so I know a little bit more about you than the average listener. But you set goals and you set realistic goals, and you also, I watch you when you plan your stuff and it starts to come to fruition. You don't arbitrarily say, well, if I've done this, then I'm going to immediately do this next week. Like, you make your goals realistic, and you wait. You've got this gym open; it's doing very well. I'm sure in your mind, you're setting up what's your next gym going to look like. In other words, you talked about this earlier, and Chris has mentioned it before, where you kind of pregame yourself. What's my next project going to be, and what's it going to look like? And in my job in law enforcement, I call it the what if game. What if this happens? I'll do this. What if this guy does this and this woman does that? I have to respond this way. It's the same thing in business life. And the military teaches you these skills too. So if you could expand a little bit more on that, on your planning process.
So, oh man, I never thought I would say this. You hear it from instructors when you're at school. But, in Ranger School, they always said, you have your 5-point plans, right? But nothing's ever going to go as planned. So as long as you don't set yourself up for disappointment, like there's no failure.
Right.
It's just temporary setback, or you quit.
Right.
That's all it is.
Right. And
you either had a temporary setback. Sorry, Agent Grant. Now I'm moving my face again. You either had a temporary setback, and you're going to come up with another solution to whatever problem or speed bumps in front of you, or you're going to quit. And you're going to be pessimistic.
Yeah.
That's the only two roads.
Yeah.
And it takes the same amount of energy to be pessimistic and optimistic.
Right.
So you start blaming people, you're putting energy where the solution's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've been there. We're all there.
Yeah, that's
and that kind of leads me into my next question there. And you talk about, stumbling blocks and people being positive. I don't use that other big P word that you used there, which I still don't know where you got that from, but neither here nor there. You had some drama here at this gym. Let's be honest. Let's talk about it. When I first came, you were in this next door, sharing a space with another co-owner of a gym. Was a little crowded. Just really didn't work for you. That was my take as well. So talk to me how you got this new space, and talk me through that process, because I know this wasn't easy. I know you ran into some permit issues and things like that. So talk about that and how you reflected back on your planning and your training in the military and how you handled that, because I know it wasn't easy. It was drama.
Oh yeah. So we ran out of space being next door. There was a lot of people, and there was two programs going in. So
there were some hurt feelings. I say this because I was kind of there. I was working out with you at the time.
Yeah.
There seemed to be some hurt feelings. Things started off well.
I think that there's so much interpretation with what you want to happen, what you think is going to happen, what's actually happening. There's always interpretation with it. So we got to this point where we're running out of space, and then the equipment and the facilitation of the people, it just began to be more conflict than it was beneficial for both parties.
Right.
So
all right, let's talk about conflict. Obviously, there's military conflict, and now you're dealing with this type of conflict, on the outside. So compare how you were able to deal with this conflict based on other conflicts you dealt with in the military.
So I have this rule of thumb. if emotion is involved, then logic is not.
Wow, that's good.
If emotion is involved,
Yep.
logic is not. So when you're doing business, or you're doing training, or you're doing military conflict, whatever it is, you got to shut emotion off, which kind of goes against with like a veteran getting out with like, all right, shut your emotions off. Don't do what you always did. But you have to. You have to let logicality come in and say, what's our best avenue of approach for a solution that everybody can benefit? Everybody. If it's just beneficial for you, then you're going to have guilt about it, you know? So taking that pause and saying like, all right, am I being emotional about this? And am I reacting out of habit? Or am I going to sit down and say, this is my problem. This is where I want to be. What do I have to do there? And then you go, what did I do? I went back to Ranger School. I did backwards planning. I went back to backwards planning. Right. And it took me months to realize it. It's like, Tom, you know, I remember being in mountain phase. The Zika, or some virus that went out. All the RIs got it. We had 10 days, one bucket to piss in, one bucket to puke in, and a cot. They put us in the gym, all of us, for 10 days. And then when the 10 days came, they quarantined us. Meg still got the letter I wrote her from Mountain Phase. Yeah. Because I had to write her. I'm like, I'm not graduating. It'll be... So they recycled all of us. My whole family was ready to come in March out of the winter class, come down to graduation. I said, Holt, don't get your plane tickets. Right. We had a setback. I wasn't planned. Okay. And you can freak out about it emotionally, or you can stop and say, okay, is it going to change anything? Right. Be patient. Right. We were supposed to have an opening date with the new space that we found. We found the new space. We agreed on terms with the landlord, and the opening date kept getting pushed back. And it was really annoying because it didn't go as planned. You know, there was a couple times, more than once, where my emotions came out, and I was like, if this person did this, or if this person didn't do that, I started going into the playing game. And as soon as I shut all that crap, because it's crap, it's my own crap that I'm doing, my own BS. Right. As soon as that was shut out, and I said, okay, it's going to open when it's open. The people that are with me are still with me. The people that are going to stay with me are going to stay with me. You know, it kind of just fizzled out. You don't quit. You don't let emotion take over logic. You go back to the basics. You still show up on time. Right. You still get in the right uniform. Right. You still, whether it's 2 people or 40 people, you still give them what they're coming for. They're coming to you. Right. You know.
So I'm gonna zero in on this a little bit more with this conflict. You took emotion out of it. You were able to do that. I don't feel like from an outsider's perspective that maybe not everybody was able to take emotion out of it. Because they weren't able to, did that make you have to focus more on not getting emotionally involved? There were some cheap shots going out there.
Definitely. But remember what I said in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I go back to 4 a.m. And the first person in my mind is my wife. So when the emotions came out and I wanted to rip off head like I used to.
Right.
This is Right? I was like, okay. What's the real W here?
So you're talking about the consequences of the wrong decision.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to hold yourself accountable, yes. or you have to find people in your life that make you accountable. Like I'll be honest with you, I don't want to go up to Gary and tell him I effed up. Yeah. I don't want to disappoint you. I have so much respect for you that you're like family to me. I don't want you coming in here on a Monday and be like, oh man, I did this dumb thing. Like I got a DUI. Like. Whatever it is. Right. No, I get that. You need people, I always love the people that say, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. Like, that's cool and all, but, if you don't, eventually it's going to, it's not fulfilling. It's not really like as lame as that sounds, it's not a fulfilling life. Right. You joke around, you bust stones and stuff, but you better care about what other people think about you. Yeah. It's important. Everybody needs accountability because we're all biased to our own cultures and where we're coming from. And
we are biased.
Yeah, I was getting a little nervous with this love fest between you two. Yeah. I thought it was a little Match.com date.
No, I know.
Him not wanting to disappoint you.
We were very close.
Obviously, a little
too
close.
You should understand that of all people.
Do you still have my socks?
Yeah. I do.
So, you talk about accountability, and we talk about all these different traits, and here at Mission Redefined, and that's what we want to focus on, is remembering the skill set we got when we served. Right. And I think it's so I think if you were to look at the veteran population, those who are successful, and I consider success to me, not taking a gun to your head and being the statistics.
Right.
So I don't care if you're bagging groceries at the grocery store or pumping gas.
Right. Are you paying taxes?
Right.
Are you being a good citizen? That is successful.
Are you a good parent?
Yeah.
You know, a good husband.
Right.
And are you a good citizen? That's successful to me, not taking the gun to your head and becoming a statistic after, you know, your service and the things you've been experienced to. And then those who are able to even go even further, I think they reflect more on the basic values that we talked about at the beginning of this. You know, like you didn't want to disappoint your wife when all this stuff was being said, and the smart comments on Facebook and, you know, stuff like that. You know, you took the high road because you didn't want to disappoint your wife. And I think that's important to our listeners to remember, is you got to have values.
Right.
You got to live for something other than yourself.
Right.
You know, whether you don't have to, you know, you don't have to go out and, you know, volunteer 80 hours a week. You know, you don't have to give away half your money to a charity, but just think about other people when you get up and move. And I think that's something that you've been very successful to do. You know, just being an outsider, looking at, you know, some of the things I've seen on social media, things I've heard from different people. Right. And, you know, to see what you've accomplished now as I look around and see this.
You're getting a little excited, aren't you, Chris? You want to work out.
I
can see it.
I got a little movement. You know, I think that's important for people to understand that maintaining those core values.
So important.
So, what, like for you, Chris, let me start with you. Before you were in the military, who was it in your life that you didn't want to have to explain something to?
Oh, hands down, my father.
Your dad.
Me
too.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
And
your dad's career Navy.
Dad's career.
So it's that same mentality. Yeah.
You know, and to me, it wasn't. I didn't look at it as disappoint back then. I looked at it as not getting an ass beaten.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was.
A little same for me.
Yeah. Don't let the principal call.
Right.
You know, don't come home.
Right.
You know, because you're getting an ass beaten.
Yeah.
And that's just the realities.
Yeah.
You know, but it's important. So Tom, when we talk about things, talk to me about how your military background comes into how you train people and how you run this joint.
All right.
So this is your bread and butter, brother.
Well,
get it up for you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, one, you literally have to ask people how they feel. Do you feel good? Do you feel bad?
Right.
Do you feel stronger? Or do you feel weak?
Gary, how's your back? Gary, I'm watching you. You're stretching a little bit more than usual. How's your back? You say to me all the time.
Yeah, you gotta literally go up to people, look them in the face.
Yeah.
Look at their body reaction. Look at the way they say it, and say, "Hey, man, how are you feeling? Hey, do you feel good? Do you feel bad? Do you feel weak? Do you feel strong?
Yeah.
Well, what the hell's the problem? Let's figure it out. Realize how much BS it is.
Right.
And get on.
Right.
So a little thing. I remember as soon as I got the MEPS, they said, don't ever be caught without a pen and paper.
Right. So explain what MEPS is.
Military entrance program.
Yeah.
So that's the program that you enter right before basic training to in-process you into the military. Yeah. So right there, like I tell my people when they come to lift weights, a good thing as a beginner, write down what you're doing.
Right.
Write down what you're doing so you have an idea. So when someone comes up to you and asks you what you've done, if you don't remember it, because we don't expect you to, you go to your book.
Right.
So writing things down, having a visualization of what you need to do throughout the day, that's something I brought. It's like I treat people like they're soldiers. Like these are all new things, new ways of training that you've never experienced before. I can't expect you to learn it like that because it's not realistic, and neither should you. Right? So when you come, writing things down, talking about it, right? Talking about it with the people. I make people introduce themselves to each other here. I'm like, if you don't know somebody, introduce yourself. You know why? Because we don't have name tags up here, and we're not that smart.
Right. So I'd like to point out to anybody that's listening to this podcast, if you come to work out at Tom Devietro's gym, that make sure you write your name on the board, because if I have to do push-ups because you didn't write your name on the board, I'm not going to be happy about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the culture you brought over. And, you know, I've been to a couple of your classes, very, very interesting, great training. But how do other people who may be coming in the first time, who really don't know your background, don't really know what you're going to do, when you start dropping that F-bomb and your bad choice of music, how's that go? I mean, because you got some bad choice of music, brother.
Definitely.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's been a couple times in my career, this morning's one of them, where I'm like, you know what, Tom, like maybe you shouldn't curse so much, and maybe you shouldn't play the music that you do, the rap or the rock. And then when I think about it a little bit more, I think about how much energy it will take for me to not be myself.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to waste my energy and I'm going to waste your time. So if we can get right to the point and understand that, you know, if you understand that I'm here for your best interests and all this other stuff is just a social lubricant, you know, because I'm socially awkward, right?
Yeah.
Then we can get to training.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I kind of put myself out there in front of people, to be honest with you. I want to make myself look like a goofball so other people can just kind of be in the crowd,
Yeah.
sit
You
back.
take the tension off of people.
I do.
Oh.
I'll be honest with you.
diffuse
And,
it. I watch them do it.
and
All
one
right.
of the biggest things,
Yeah.
I explain this to my people, there's 3 approaches to training people. And I learned this from the Army. There's a direct approach where you're right up in their face. There's an indirect approach where you kind of let them go. And then there's a combined approach. And every hour's different. Every person's different. Every day of the week is different because they have different jobs, different lifestyles. And I think those approaches, I keep that military approach to training in my head where I'm like, okay, this person needs me in their face today. This person needs me to like just ask how they're doing today.
Yeah.
And that's the same as soldiering at a range,
It is.
at PT, at the DFACT.
Yeah.
Everybody needs different potions of, you know, empathy at different times to motivate them. And so, you know, you try and do your best. It's all a shot in the dark. It's all trial and error.
Right. Yeah.
But like I said, I kind of put myself out there because I'm looking for the greater good of the group. What's my major responsibility here? It's to get people in, keep them safe. That's number 1. They have to get a good workout. Number 2, then they have to enjoy it.
So you're talking about giving your customers a good value for their money, which it is.
Yeah, and like I said, like, same with soldiering.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to be a dick when I have to be a dick to get you to do what we need to for the group, for the team. But at the same time, it's like you shouldn't when you're in a group or a team, you shouldn't take things as an individual.
Now, have you got any feedback for somebody that like, this isn't for me? I didn't like Tom's approach. Have you gotten any of that? Anybody just?
Yeah. I had one guy that I actually had to revoke his membership because he didn't understand teamwork. He didn't understand constructive feedback. So that was like like most of the people in the program, they're like, okay, I'm here to learn something new. I'm here to try and learn new things, be around different people, different approaches. And our approach just wasn't fitting in with him.
Right.
And so I said, hey, man, what are you looking for? He's like, I'm looking to just come in and crush it. I'm not looking for constructive feedback. Well, I said, I don't think this is for you. You know, that's like showing up to an infantry unit and say you don't want to walk. Well,
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where's the bus?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Or it's like my fingers hurt because I'm holding this.
Right.
You know, it's like, well, I don't think this is for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you see blood, maybe you shouldn't become a if you see blood and pass out, maybe you shouldn't be sticking people.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best
If
approach.
you get seasick, don't be a boat captain.
Yeah. And I know I'm just as selective with people coming in
Yes.
as they are. You know what I mean?
But you do a pretty good job of taking people that are, at least I'll say, physically broken. I've watched you do it where they come in, they're older, they're overweight, they haven't done anything other than get up off the couch, and you're pretty good at that. I've seen it, and I'm not just talking about myself.
No.
So you're pretty good at that. You have a good toolbox.
I'm gonna tell a little story here, so it's not, you know. I remember my wife coming home and saying, "Yo, you got to go check out this guy who does this, you know, workout.
Right.
He's a veteran. You know, I think you two would really get along,
Yeah.
and stuff like that." And I put it off for the longest time. I put it off.
Right.
And then, you know, I came that first day, and the whole time I'm thinking through the entire workout is, I am not gonna let this Army asshole run me into the ground. No, I'm dead serious.
Right, no,
I'm dead
I get
serious.
it.
And so,
Right.
so when it came time to the box jump,
I was working out with you.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
When it came time to, now I'm dead serious. I have not tried a box jump ever before
Yeah.
until the first day I was in here.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. If I fall on my ass.
Do you remember it?
Yeah.
I do too.
If I fall on my ass,
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was that thing of, A, I'm not going to let him beat me.
Yeah.
B, I don't want to be a disappointment. And B, look at him type of stuff,
Right.
negative. And I think that's what coming in here does for you.
Yeah, it does.
For members. You don't want to be that guy or
Yeah.
that girl.
It's that group atmosphere.
It really is. And I see that as, again, the core values of being in the military.
Yes, sir.
You
Yeah.
know, And I really, really do. And I want to thank you for giving me that opportunity to do something, that I didn't have the chance to, I never thought of before. I mean, I had no reason to jump on a box. What the hell am I going to do that for? I'll go around it.
Yeah.
But I'm in this group setting, and unfortunately, good or bad, I do stand out a little bit.
Yeah.
So, everyone's like looking, all right, is this guy going to be able to do this type of thing?
So for those of you who don't know, they're new to the podcast, Chris was in the Marine Corps, and he had an injury, and on his right leg, he's got a prosthesis from the knee down. So when he's talking about jumping on the box, I'll be honest with you, I was literally standing behind him holding my breath.
Yeah.
And when he got off the box, that same day we were squatting, and I remember saying to you, how do you know when you were squatting too much? And you said, there's a funny noise, and I yell out, get out of the way. Yeah. And that was it. I mean, and when you hear somebody say that, you're like, I want to be around this atmosphere. I want to be around these guys.
And that's what I think this does. And,
Yeah.
I've been to group workouts before. I've been a gym rat my whole life. And this has that feel of like a unit.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. It's like you don't want to let the unit down when you come in here.
You know who responds well to this too, Chris, is the young women that come in here that aren't in the military. They're coming here to work out.
I'm glad they come here.
Yeah, and they respond well to that. They do. You watch some of the. I'll say their first names. Abby, Rose, and some of these. They respond to you like the Pied Piper, and it's not just you personally, Tom. It is that military mentality.
It's the unit thing.
This guy is doing the right thing. This guy, because Tom literally walks the walk. If you come into his gym and he doesn't have a shirt on, you're going to say, "God damn, that's what I want to look like." Besides the fact that he's only about 5 feet high.
Yeah.
But that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
That's genetics. We can't help that. So, but he does walk the walk. He physically looks good. He'll tell you how to get to look like that. When I watch these women respond to when he shows us how to do stuff, and he does do it very well. He does everything well. And if there's something, I can't remember a time when he wasn't doing something perfectly.
Right.
But he'll explain to you. Sometimes he'll do things. He'll say to the people he's training, okay, tell me when to roll my shoulder. Tell me when my shoulders are rolled forward or my feet aren't right. And the women respond to this because, one, they haven't been in the military, and two, they see what the results are. And I think that's a big deal.
It goes back to a concept I'm a firm believer in. Majority of people want to be led.
Yes, they do.
Majority of people want to be led.
Yeah.
And I think taking that approach has been very, very successful for you in sticking along the fitness line. Tell me some fallacies, some different things out there that people have a misconception about group training, strength and conditioning versus going to, a gym that you pay $10 a month and no one's going to judge you type of gym. So talk a little bit about the fitness.
In regards to the fitness, aspect, my biggest recommendation is to be, strength is patience. It goes back again. You have this expectation of what you're going to do, what you're going to look like, how strong you're going to be, and usually your first guess is off because you have no experience with it. You have no real experience. So your guess is going to be wrong. So as long as you have the patience to be calm and say, okay, I'm going to try this out, see how I feel, and then work on it, that's the first thing. Be patient when you're approaching this. And as long as you have this open mindset of all right, today might not be my strongest. Does that mean I'm going to quit it and walk away? So as far as it's a big patience game.
Yes.
Most people have 99 out of 100 people at the gym do not have a clue what they're doing. They're all acting like they do.
Okay.
And it's all sharing what you've done. All this is. Doesn't matter if you've been coaching or practicing. You just share your experiences. You say, hey, this is what I've done. This is what happened to me before. Then we tried this out on another person. This is what happened to them. That's all it is. And everybody's different. So as far as the approaches with fitness and getting involved with the gym, if you take a very patient approach to it, you'll be disappointed less. And then you'll have more consistency. And consistency is key.
Do you think the gym industry does themselves a disservice by how they market and the way they, everyone's looking for that magic pill, everyone's looking for, the six-pack abs, do you think that hurts the industry?
Absolutely. I think there's not enough focus on practicing movement. I never heard the word practice in the industry.
We're from Philly. Allen Iverson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Practice. Say it all the time.
Yeah.
How many times you hear me say it? We're like, we're going to practice kettlebell swings. And some people have been doing it for years with me. But we still have to go back to practicing basic things.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're all biased. If someone doesn't look at you and give you feedback, you are going to get biased to your own movement. You're going to get biased to your own ways, your own words, everything. Everybody needs accountability. So you need to practice the basics barbarically well forever. As soon as you think you got the basics down in anything outside of fitness, as soon as you think you have them, you're like, all right, I got the basics down. I don't need to practice them. That's when you're going to lose them. So, you've moved on to something complex, but you've got away from the basics. Even with something as firing a weapon.
What you're talking about is basically the same methods you use when you're teaching firearms, hand-to-hand combat, the things that we all learn in the military. Right. And what you're talking about, the bias, is, everybody has a bias. Everybody's toolbox has some things in it when they get to the military. You have maybe some martial arts. It may not be exactly what that branch of the service wants you to use, but you have some skills. And which I hear you describing the way, and I know, being one of your, you coach me, one of the guys that come to your gym, I know that you watch me to see how I'm moving. It's the same thing you did when you were a ranger and you were bringing somebody on new to your unit, and you'd watch them. Are they handling their weapon safely? Are they doing it just like everybody else? Are they going to step out of line? Is it going to be the guy, I don't want this guy if he's going to be the guy that steps out of line and blows us all up. Yeah. Which, I know is...
It happens.
It hits a nerve, yeah. It hits a nerve with two of you, two of the three of us sitting here. So so basically you're applying those same skills to your gym, your skills in training.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is funny looking at it, especially coming 6 years out.
Yeah.
It took me so long to realize the gold. And I'm going to say this. If you got the opportunity to serve our military, any branch, you're privileged.
Yeah.
You are privileged to be a part of our military fighting forces. I think something that people don't realize, 1,000 years from now, we might not have a military the way we do.
Right.
1,000. Dude.
Next week.
Whatever it is. We have the
Yeah.
greatest fighting forces in history.
Yeah.
As far as like winning battles, winning wars, our training, our mindset, all of it. And if you can take just a speck of what you were shown, that's what I mean.
Yes.
I was exposed to so many fitness things, and I didn't realize it at the time. Then when you're out, you're like, wow. Like, let's use this. Like you were talking about the budget.
Yeah.
I had a $2 million medical budget in Iraq for a year at 19 years old.
Yeah.
At 19 years old, I was in charge of 3 people, Dan Toner, Morella Hampton, and Malachi Grimes. They're all between the ages of 27 and 36. All of them have kids.
Yeah.
And I'm 19.
Right.
I have to budget for them, make sure their finances are good, make sure they can fire a weapon, make sure their medical skills are good to help other people. And you put that in perspective. You're like, wow, you can manage a budget. You can manage people.
So years later, when you get out and you need $500,000 to open this gym, you're okay with it. You understood that. You've already been through those stresses because the military gave you that stress.
Yes. Yes, and so don't be bitter at where you came from.
Yeah.
Be grateful for what you got exposed to. You should be happy that I remember when I got that budget and they're like, you're in charge of all the medical, you get to buy all the medical supplies for a year for every platoon.
Yeah, no pressure there, right?
Oh, by the way, you're going to teach the whole Air Force combat lifesaver in between, the Saddam trial and, Abu Ghraib prison shutting down. You're like, what does all this mean?
Yeah.
And just try your hardest, make your mistakes, and then later on tell everybody all the mistakes you made.
Yes. That's one thing. It's funny, we haven't brought this up yet, that I really admire about the military. The first time I came across this was when I was in the Air Force. The Air Force puts out a magazine every month of every accident and mistake that happened on the flight line. And they are brutally honest about what happened. You all right over there?
I didn't drink enough water. My hamstring was cramped up like a lunatic.
And they are brutally honest about it, but all the services do it. I know that the Marine Corps does it. They do it in infantry, the Navy. They do it in all their especially aviation, because aviation. When it comes to aviation, planes and driving ships, one mistake can be a disaster for many people. So they're very honest about that. And I think that's something you can apply to when you get out of the military. You know, you go to a company, you need to talk about the mistakes that you make so you can, one, stop making them, two, figure out what your liability is, and three, make sure you can finance those mistakes if there's something you can't continuously stop.
Yeah. Tom, tell me about your proudest military achievement, whether it was a deployment, something you did. Give me a moment in time that you're proudest that you did while you were in the military.
That we could talk about on there.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I think about this every day.
Yeah.
Every day when I wake up. And it's going to sound weird that it's my proudest moment in the military. I thought I was going to be in the military for 30 years when I joined at 18.
Right.
Things happen. So my mom passed away. My mom passed away when I was in Ranger School. And, we went through the funeral and everything, and then I went back to Ranger School, and then I went to my Ranger unit right afterwards. And I sucked it up so much. I sucked up all my emotions a lot. I was just like, all right, just deal with it and get back to your job. And, like, keep moving. That wasn't a great decision, and it broke me down. It shriveled me down.
You didn't give yourself time to grieve.
I've had friends pass away. I've seen other soldiers pass away.
Yeah.
But for some reason, my mother, because I was so close to her, it affected me the most. When I put my hand up to myself and to the other people around me, and I admit it, and I said, you know what? I'm messing up.
Yeah.
I'm messing up too much. I was proud of myself to admit that I was making mistakes.
Right.
That I was like, okay, I'm scared of the way I'm operating right now.
Right.
And I just want to lift my hand up and say, you know what, man, I'm messing up too much.
Yeah.
That was my proudest mark because it was the hardest thing for me to do.
So think about the guys that were around you, what it meant to them, that you identified yourself, that you could be a risk. That must have bonded you to them even more than they already were. Because I know I've met some of the guys you were with in your unit, and you are very close, and they're good guys, and so that's something else, a learning tool there too. We talk about when soldiers, people in the military, where the issue of depression and suicide, but to have somebody in your unit who is one of the sharpest points there, and he raises his hand and says, I'm not dealing with that. That's a great learning moment for everybody.
It is, and I'll never forget. I'll never forget when I went up to my platoon sergeant. He was one of the best soldiers that I've ever met. His name's Chris Masters, and I went to Chris, and it was post deployment. You're in another training cycle, and I went up to him and I had my mom. I started crying. You don't cry inside a Ranger battalion.
It's like baseball.
You're not going up to someone, telling your platoon sergeant right before you're going out to a range, saying, like, hey, man, I'm really emotional about my mom's death. No, it's not.
Right.
But I had to because I knew I didn't feel safe.
Right.
So I remember going up to him like, yo, dude, I like, Sergeant, I know you don't want to hear this right now, but I'm a mess, dude. I'm on fire. I can't get my mom out. I don't feel safe.
Right.
And me admitting that, he looked right at me. And he explained to me what he had going on in his life. That made me realize that was the moment, and I think about it every day. That's the moment you realize how tough and how much these guys that are in, that stay in.
Yeah.
You realize that. I didn't realize that to that moment.
Right. They're there for a reason.
I looked at him and I was like, God, like I thought I was tough.
Yeah.
You are one tough SOB. And that can't be taken for granted. That makes me want to live better.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like when you say, like, what are you proud of?
Right.
Being able to admit that you're messed up. It's like, even if you can't drive a car, be like, hey man, I can't drive this.
Right.
I'm embarrassed by it, but I don't want to get behind this wheel because it's going to mess up a lot more.
But it's not usual for men, especially alpha men, and we all are, especially people in the military, in those units, for somebody to come out and say that. But that also tells you a little bit that the military is changing a little bit in good ways.
Yeah, it's definitely. It's adjusted.
Because I guarantee you that guy respect you even more if that's possible, because he might have seen some. I mean, you were probably showing some signs.
We still went to training.
Yeah.
We went to training.
Yeah.
But, we took that tactical pause.
But didn't you feel better by expressing that?
I talk to him about it still. Once a year I contact him.
And when he told you about his issues, what is that saying to you? To me, that is, I'm not in this by myself.
Right. No.
This is not the only person this is happening to. Yeah. Everybody else is having trauma in their lives. This is how they're dealing with it.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris, you had to experience a lot of that yourself.
A lot of that as well. Fast forward, you're out.
Yeah.
Tell me about your proudest achievement now. Now that you've been out of the military, what's your, tell me what you're most proud
Besides this podcast.
Oh,
yeah. Besides getting to spend the morning with me.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, I say this all the time. I say it to Gary. I say it to everybody. I say it to my wife. It's definitely my insecurities coming out. I don't think I'm that smart of a person, and I don't think that I work that hard in compared to people that work really hard. And if I can do something like this, I was the guy. It's like, I was in the military. It's like, well, what do you want to do? And all I want to do is get in PTs. Yeah. How many times did I say it? All you want to do is get in PTs. I wake up and I'm in PTs, and when I leave my job, I'm already in PTs. So
he means physical training clothes to work out in. For those that don't know,
if I can be this dumb and make this happen, then anybody can.
Yeah,
it's nuts to me. Like when I see the guys in the people I know getting out of the military that say they're stuck, it's so confusing.
Right.
It's confusing.
So let me add one or two things to that. One, I know you pretty well. You're not dumb. But two, I want to say to the other veterans out there and anybody listening to the podcast is, don't feel guilty about your success. If we and I learned this a long time ago myself, if you think that everybody has to suffer terribly to get to a certain point, sometimes you do get a break, and sometimes things go easy. Don't take that as a bad sign,
right?
Because what that is that you've learned. You're taking skills, Tom. You're making decisions, good and you're making decisions to make good decisions, and you're making decisions to stay away from bad things that are destructive. And don't guilt yourself for that. Never guilt your success. I'm not saying be arrogant about it, and clearly everybody at this table, including Grant, doesn't understand because you're not arrogant people. You're successful. You're humble about it. But to the veteran out there that feels like that he has great success and he maybe feels guilt about it because some people aren't rising as high as they did, give them time. They'll get there. Don't make yourself feel guilty about it. I broached this about 10, 15 years ago with some family members where I felt a little bit, that maybe I need to be doing more for them. And the truth is they need to buck up.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So Tom, I'm Private Schmuckatelli, stationed at Camp Lejeune. I'm coming up on my 4th year. I'm about to get out. Give me 2 nuggets that's going to help Private Schmuckatelli, or Corporal Schmuckatelli probably now, after 3 years. On his 4th year coming up, give me a couple nuggets that are going to help him or her.
Go in your bedroom, shut the door, shut the light out, go in the corner, and every day, multiple times a day, write down 3 things that if you have nothing going on, where the hell do you want to be? What the hell you want to be doing? That's number 1. Write it down so many times every day before you get out that you have 3 things. I remember what I wrote down too. Number 1 wasn't the gym. It was detailing cars. Right. I remember when I was like 3 months out, I just asked anybody if they want their car washed, hand washed, and waxed for them. So I was either going to do car detailing because I like to do it. I could just put my hands on cars each day and wash them, wax them, or I want to be at the gym at all times, or I was going to clean houses. So I just kept writing those down. Then I picked one, and it was the gym, and we went off from there. So number 1, keep writing down where you want to be and what you want to do. So then when you get out and you're trying to get there, it's something, it's for yourself. It's for you. Mm-hmm. That's number 1. And then number 2, if you stick to those, like I said in the beginning, those basic values, those basic traits, using customs and courtesies, being nice to people, even when you don't want to, you're learning how to act in a different lifestyle. You're learning how to act in a different life. That whole life was completely different than what you're going to experience now, and you have to adapt to them. You're in the new environment. They don't adapt to you. You could tell them everything you've done, but they're not going to understand it because they weren't in. You're the 1%.
Right.
So balancing, knowing that you're the 1%, of the good and the bad.
Right.
It's like, don't forget what you did. Don't forget what you were exposed to and what you were privileged to. Don't feel bad about it, but at the same time, you got to use it.
Right.
You didn't just have all these privileges and everything to not use them.
Right.
It's so silly. And like I said, as soon as someone graduates basic training, it stuff seems like they just want to push it all away. They're like, oh, I only had to do it for basic because an instructor was there.
Right.
It's like, no, man, we're teaching you this basic stuff so you can function on your own with everything.
Yeah.
And definitely, reach out to other veterans. Make friends with your veterans. And it doesn't matter your branch of service. It doesn't matter your MOS. I would say that most of, I was in the Army, but most of my veteran friends outside on the civilian world are all Marines,
God, you can't get rid of them. No. I'm sorry, Chris.
I know.
You can't throw a dead cat. You can't throw an empty beer can and hit a Marine around.
No, but you gotta stick together, because like I said, that lineage, you're a part of something, whether you realize it or not.
Yes.
You are a part of something that is so, I don't know, man.
It's precious. It is precious.
It is to me.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we hope we can highlight with this podcast is how precious and how awesome it is to have served.
Yeah.
And to get those skill sets that you learned at the age of 18 to carry you forward. I know that it helped me be successful. I know, Gary as well. So Tom, talk to me. Where are you going to be in 5 years? What's your? I mean, you're still writing stuff down. I know you. So tell me what you're writing down now.
So when I was in the Army, I always got put in charge of taking somebody that wasn't good at PT and getting their PT better. And now that I'm out of the Army and I have people paying me for PT and it's successful, I took a step back and I was like, well, I never liked the Army, the military's PT program. And that's a major goal of mine. I want to make an impact of where it started, So what I'm trying to do now is take my programs and how can I emulate them for the masses in the military and say, hey, you know what? We've come up with a better approach, more realistic approach to get more productive training. That's what I would like to do, is I would like to train soldiers again and service members in that much. And it starts here, though.
Sure.
You can't get to that 5-year mark if you don't have that progress. I mean, that's where I'm at. I want to go back and help more.
Yeah.
And it'll help me.
Right.
It'll help me learn again what I might have forgotten, where they're coming from.
Yeah.
That's a big goal of mine. It's just, taking charge of something that you can help with.
Right.
So that's on my list right now. But going back and hopefully helping out, bringing something to the table. Like, you learned it there, you took it on the civilian world, you did something good, but how do you bring it back? And
so, what do you think the military is missing in their PT that you've learned since being out that you would like to see implemented back?
I would say there has to be an approach of regression and progression. That was always the missing link. It was like, all right, if you can't do push-ups, get down and do more. If you can't run fast, go run more. And it was just always a blame. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but what's the actual solution? More isn't always better. So regression and progression. If you can't do a proper push-up, do this instead and then lead up. And then if you are doing a good push-up, what's your progression so you don't stay the same? So I think regression, progression, they need and that falls under a standard.
You're describing basically what we learned as kids. You got to crawl before you walk and walk before you run. And if you're having a problem with one of those, you fix that problem before you move on.
Yeah.
That's going to be a culture change for the military, though.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
That's going to be, as we're coming to an end and we're starting to wrap this up, Tom, again, first of all, thank you for your service.
Yes.
But tell me again, 3 takeaways that really redefined your mission, when you got out. Give me 3.
When I got out, don't get away from the basic values. Always. Mm-hmm. Don't get away from them. Respect, honor, integrity, these are attributes and traits that are going to make you feel better. So if you get away from those, you'll have guilt, and then it just puts a halt on everything. 2, strength is patience. So if you could take tactical pauses and that's another Chris Masters one. Yeah. Take a tactical pause. Give time. Let's just see what happens. And then always know that nothing's going to go as planned. So you have to constantly be planning. I would say that's the 3 right there.
Okay, that's great. Tom, first of all, thank you for hosting us at your gym in Morton, Pennsylvania, 32 Morton Avenue.
Yep.
Thank you again for hosting us, and thank you for sharing your time in the military. And I'd like to thank you personally for, getting me out of not a real dark place, but kind of a dark place years ago when we first met. You've certainly improved me. You're kind of keeping me alive. I'm not sure everybody appreciates that, but you are. So, and again, this whole podcast, Mission Redefined, is a brainchild of Chris Nowak. And I'm sorry, what's the nickname you use, Chris?
Action Nowak.
Action
Not
Nowak.
a nickname. It's a reality.
Your reality.
My reality.
Yes, it is. It is. So I greatly appreciate being involved in it. And of course, none of this is going to happen without our electronics guy and producer, Grant Schmidt.
Yep.
So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Please subscribe. Yes, all this that you hear us talking about, if you own a business or know somebody who does, we could be talking about your business like we were talking about Tom's or Chris's beard. So anyway, if you'd like to reach out to us, if you'd like to advertise on our podcast, thank you so much.